Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This is the Cats Roundtable with John Catsimatidis.
Everywhere around the world, they come to America. Every time that flag's unfurled, they come to America.
Good morning, America. This is the Cats Roundtable. John Catsimatidis here. One great show for you today. Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario in Canada, on what's going on with the relationship between Canada and New York. We have Senator McCormick from the great state of Pennsylvania, Pete Sessions from the state of Texas, Dr. Peter Michalos, Live Long and Prosper, Lynn Shaw about protecting our kids, Art Manteris, well, what's going on in Las Vegas. And let's start the show with Jay Clayton, the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York. With us today is Jay Clayton. He's the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, traditionally the largest U.S. Attorney's office in the country and the most active. Well, Jay Clayton, what is going on? I mean, there's so many conflicts going on all over the place, and I know you're probably in the center of all of them. So I'm going to go with your thoughts, and where do you want to start?
Well, Happy New Year, John, and like you, I'm an optimist, and I think we're gonna continue to do very good work here for the people of New York this year. Update: our focus has been on gun-toting criminals, getting them off the streets. You and I have been talking about it now for about 6 months. We're making real progress, John. We are getting people who are career criminals, who are using guns, getting them charged federally, getting them detained, and improving the quality of life. Since we last spoke, we also closed down an open-air drug market in one of our housing projects. The gang had taken over some of the vacant apartments and was using it for their activities. Great work with the NYPD. Poor kids having to walk through an open-air drug market on their way to school. This was only 5 blocks from the northeast corner of Central Park. So, John, we are continuing to focus on the crime that adversely affects the quality of life for New Yorkers. So that's sort of number one.
Well, that is a wonderful thing that the federal government and under President Trump and under your leadership here in New York is that if the state government or city government is not putting the criminals away, that the federal government is supplementing it and doing what you have to do.
And John, I firmly believe that it's what New Yorkers want. People walk up to me on the street, they introduce themselves, and they say, thank you for Washington Square Park. Thank you for the housing projects. Thank you for focusing on the really hardened criminals who have such an adverse impact on quality of life, particularly for our most vulnerable, John. I mean, it's really the people who have a hard time getting to school, who have a hard time getting to their job, whose life is most adversely affected by this kind of crime.
Well, I've had so many discussions about criminals that have been arrested by our state or city for 50 times, 60 times, and by the time the police are working out their reports, they're going home already. And it's just very disheartening. So I'm so glad that the federal government is able to do under the law to do what they have to do to keep our city safer.
Well, thank you, and I would go further. I mean, it's just unacceptable. It's disheartening and it's unacceptable, and New Yorkers don't want it. So that's what we're doing. Otherwise, John, I'm looking at the financing of what I would say is the financing of discontent. People, this is America. It is the most wonderful place that we have the First Amendment. We can say what we think. If we don't like the president, we can say we don't like the president. If we don't like policies, we can say we don't like policies. There's no other place in the world. But what scares me is whether foreign money is promoting those views. We have the most open society, but I think our adversaries take advantage of our openness. They're looking at us and saying, let's use that great strength of America against America. Now, I'm just speaking generally because I'm at the incipient stages of looking at this. But if financing is coming from foreign adversaries in our political debate, that's a problem.
And what I've heard through all my sources, what I'm looking at is they use American citizens or American companies as conduits for foreign money.
That is something we are looking at, John. The old adage, follow the money. I want to make sure that the money that is flowing into political debate, social debate in America comes from Americans, that it doesn't come from our adversaries.
Homeland Security the other day made a mention, and I think the Department of Justice in Washington did, that the fact is that money being funneled in for protesters and they go from city to city, state to state, and as needed. And the sad part of it is the media covers those protesters, and maybe they're spending a few $1 million on protesting, but they're getting $1 zillion worth of PR on television.
Look, we're looking at this, John, but there's no reason why the media shouldn't be asking, where did you get the money? There is no reason.
Right. Yes.
That's protected by the First Amendment.
Where do we go from here, Mr. Clayton?
We just want to keep back to quality of life in New York. We just want to keep making progress every day. If New Yorkers have views on where we should be putting our resources, the types of crime we should be focused on, I want to hear them. I know your platform is wonderful that way. People call in. If your guests have views, please ask them. And I want to keep this dialogue going, John.
Well, Jay Clayton, United States Attorney for the Southern District, and we will keep the communications open, and we will give you the feedback as we get it from our listeners. Thank you so much for what you do and caring about America, and please thank the president that you're close to, and thank him for loving New York and caring about New York.
Will do, and he does love New York.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back right after this break. Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. Well, the flu is all around. Dr. Peter Michalos, give me your evaluation. What the heck is going on?
Well, John, this year the flu is quite intense, and there's two types of flus we talk about, the flu A and the flu B. And the one that really hits us the hardest and is the one with the more severe illness is the flu A. And that's the fast flu that basically spreads very quickly, and it's been labeled a super flu, whereas the flu B does not spread as rapidly, and the flu A mutates much more readily, and that's why this year's flu vaccine is mismatched to the current flu that we have, and it only helps about 30% against this flu. And again, when we talk about flu, we want to define it. Basically, it's a viral infection that attacks the lungs, the nose, and the throat. And it's a pretty serious thing because about 40,000 people a year die in the United States, and over 500,000 a year die worldwide from the flu. What is fascinating, though, is that in areas where there's more sunlight, there's less flu. And the peak of flu happens around the winter solstice, where basically the Earth in the northern hemisphere is tilted the furthest away from the sun. So when you have the shortest days, those 3 to 4 weeks after that, after like December 21st, is the peak of flu. And on the opposite side of the planet, like in Australia and New Zealand, they're having very, very low flu. And that's why people like to, we call snowbirds, they like to go to the south or they go to tropical areas because they have extremely low flu.
The key thing, Doctor, the key things looks like the sun helps, I guess, your vitamin D in your system.
Well, it's also that, John, but when it's warm and sunny, you're outside. You're not inside crowded small spaces and crowded rooms. And another fascinating thing that someone noticed was during the Spanish flu back in 1918, the hospitals were overwhelmed and they started keeping the patients outdoors. And the ones that they had outdoors in the sun, who they put outside in wheelchairs, they actually recovered faster. So the sun, as we know, also can kill organisms. It can kill bacteria. It kills mold. That's why on a house, you look at the one side of the roof that's exposed to the sun, it looks great, and the side of the roof that's in the dark has the mold, and things tend to grow. So the sun is a cleansing mechanism. Now, what happens with the flu going on is that people who are at risk are people over 65, babies, pregnant women, people with asthma, smokers, diabetics, people with heart disease are at higher risk. So you need to try to protect yourself. And if you're around people with symptoms, you need to stay away from them and avoiding, a lot of parties and crowds and a lot of events indoors in the winter. It tends to spread much faster. And the symptoms are, of course, fever, chills, cough, sore throat, runny nose, headache, fatigue. And some of the things that you do is get tested. If you get tested right away and you find out you have flu A, we're very fortunate that we have a medicine called Tamiflu, and it basically stops the virus from sticking to the next infected cell. It doesn't actually block viral replication, but doesn't allow it to enter the cell as readily. And the good news about Tamiflu, it kills all the different variants of flu A viruses. And the good news also about it, it's safe in pregnant women if they get the flu, and it's even safe in babies. They have a liquid form that they give babies from 2 weeks old and up. So that's a wonderful thing that we have something. The thing is that people oftentimes initially don't get tested quickly. So, if you do have the symptoms and your fever is over 100.4 and you have any of the symptoms we discussed, especially if you're short of breath, have chest pain, dizzy, or confused, then you need to go to the hospital.
Now, should we have Tamiflu at home as a normal course of business then?
Well, there would be shortages if we did that. So only if you test positive and then you should really take it. So I can't tell everybody to go get it. Is it a good thing to have around when you're traveling or you're out of the country and you don't have access to medical care? Yeah, it's probably a good idea if you do get diagnosed.
And the other thing I heard, Dr. Peter, is that the fact is you should keep your immune system up with vitamin D and vitamin C, because once you have it, it might be too late to take extra vitamin D and vitamin C.
Yeah, well, vitamin D is definitely an immune booster, and actually the recent vitamin D study long-term was fascinating that it even helped to shorten telomeres, so it turns out to be an anti-aging vitamin as well. But vitamin C actually does not block viral replication, but they show that people who have vitamin C, it helps to shorten the duration of the symptoms that you have. And another one, a natural substance, is called elderberry, which contains flavonoids, and they showed that might have antiviral properties and shorten the symptoms too. And some people drink it as a tea early on when they have the flu. And also chicken soup, interestingly, has an amino acid called cysteine, and it actually loosens up the mucus, and that's why you feel better after having the chicken soup. So that's another
with extra lemon?
Interesting. Yeah, lemon always helps. Lemon is also antibacteria, and having some warm lemon water. Sometimes what I do is I take some fresh organic cloves, put a cinnamon stick and make a tea out of that with lots of lemons, and you warm that up, and that's an excellent cocktail that has antivirals, because also cloves have been shown to have antiviral properties as well. But staying hydrated, using humidifiers in the winter, as we've discussed, is very important, and hand washing is very important. But the most important is when people are sneezing, coughing, shaking hands, do whatever you can to consciously say, I'm not going to touch my face or my nose, because that's how it enters, through the nose and the face. That's the entry point of these viruses. So these are some of the tips to help people.
If I see a person picking their nose,
right,
which happens,
yes.
And then they take the germs from their nose and they put it in their eye, it goes right into the system.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when they do get sick and they do catch a cold, people then get secondary infections like pneumonia, but they also get conjunctivitis. That's why they wake up, let's say they sleep on their right side and they're coughing and sneezing in the pillowcase, they end up getting an eye infection on that side of the body. So changing pillowcases frequently, keeping your toothbrushes clean, like when you have a cold or a flu, you take your toothbrush, you soak it into some mouthwash overnight, because otherwise you wake up in the morning and all the bacteria, viruses are growing on your toothbrush, and then you re-inoculate yourself in your throat. Especially with strep throat, I always tell people, change your toothbrushes, soak them overnight in a strong mouthwash so you don't keep re-inoculating yourself. Change your towels, your pillowcases, your sheets, and you're less likely to spread it in the household. And if you do have the flu, it's better.
Dr. Peter Mihalos, we're out of time, but thank you for coming on, and thank you for making our listeners smarter, and we'll survive this flu season. Thank you so much.
Thanks for always getting the truth out, and just think positive and test negative.
The Cats Roundtable.
Let's go to Las Vegas. With us today is Art Manteris, and he has a new book, The Bookie. Art, what's going on in Las Vegas? How is business? Are they busy, or what's going on?
Yeah, there are some problems that Las Vegas is facing now, John, and it's great to talk to you again. Thank you so much for the opportunity. We are suffering a little bit of a downturn, and it's mostly caused by overpricing and some of the practices of a few places. But it's still the most exciting city in the world, in my opinion, and the weather's beautiful right now this time of year compared to most of the country, and I love it, and I hope that you do come, and I hope to see you here soon.
Well, I look forward. Las Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, and I've always had a good time there, and it's just a fun town. How are all the casinos doing well?
Well, some are and some aren't. For the most part, they haven't been hurt by any downturn, and corporate revenues are in line with expectations. There's a couple places that are behind though, and still need to do some catch up work. And some of us have been worried about this moment coming for a long time. And what made Vegas great in the early days of Vegas was the service levels were so great, and people could come here and whether on a big budget or a small budget, and get treated really well. And that is where the improvement needs to come in the next year or two back to Las Vegas, and to get back to what made us great in the first place.
How is that big Sphere doing?
Oh, John, I just saw that the show in there just a couple weeks ago, finally for the first time. My wife had been there long before me at a concert, and everybody was raving about it. But I finally got the opportunity to see the interior, and I loved it. I was blown away. I thought it was another great asset to Las Vegas. The financial position of the folks behind the Sphere, I really don't know. I'm not current on that. I know they were struggling a lot in the early going when they in the months after they opened. They were really hit hard, and expenses were much higher than anticipated, and they had to do some catching up to get back to where they wanted to be. I know they have an agreement now to build another one in the Middle East right now, and that's not a surprise to me. It's a fabulous facility.
Now, you've been in the gambling business in Vegas all along, and you have a new book called The Bookie. Tell us about the book.
Well, yeah, the bookie does go through my life and career, and hopefully folks will find some interesting subjects in there. I think I touch a lot of nerves. I think I bring in a lot of stories about a lot of people that folks will find interesting. And nowadays, as sports has proliferated across most of the country, I have some concerns and some regrets and some words of caution moving forward.
Understand. What caution? I mean, you've been there all your life. Were you born there, or you came from somewhere?
No. Yeah, I was born in Pittsburgh. Came to Las Vegas shortly before turning 21, and so from the day I turned 21 and until only a couple of years ago, I was working in the sportsbook industry, and eventually, building sportsbooks and running many sportsbooks and so forth. So, I saw a huge transition from the industry that I joined to what's happening now. And when we were the only game in town, when Nevada provided the only regulated sports gaming in the country for the most part, we did a really good job of preventing integrity issues. And today, that's not the case. Today there's integrity issues popping up all over the place, and that is exactly what I warned about when I started writing the book. And of course, by the time the book was finished, there's been dozens of really big and bad scandals hit sports gambling, and I'm afraid that that's not over yet.
Wow. I mean, anything for any of visitors to be concerned about, or any tourists to be concerned about?
No. I still think that the game, for the most part, the games are fair. It's these specialized crimes of opportunities, very precision strikes that are happening, that are crimes of opportunity that we all need to get a handle on right now, and that's the proposition wagering and has been real surprising to me that irregularities have surfaced in the pros, particularly the NBA, but Major League Baseball as well. And with these proposition wagers, and I'm one of the guys that started the proposition wagers, and you might, in fact, I tell the story in the book about the William the Refrigerator Perry proposition in 1985 that gained so much national attention, and proposition wagering really took over after that, and really has grown with leaps and bounds ever since. But now with gambling so prevalent and so many opportunities, even in some of the stadiums, that they have sports books. And if you could bet yourself, or somebody could bet on yourself's performance under whatever the total points scored or total rebounds, et cetera, it's pretty easy to manipulate those types of wagers, much easier than manipulating a game outcome. But those things have to be addressed. Otherwise, they're going to continue to drain on the quality and integrity of the product on the field. And once you lose that, you have the risk of losing. Yeah,
once you lose credibility, you lose credibility. Now, Art Monteris, thank you for coming on, and tell us, your book is being sold. You buy it on Amazon?
Yeah, it's available on Amazon. It's available through HarperCollins online, and it'll be available over the counter here in about a week.
So it's called The Bookie, and by Art Monteris, Manteris, and thank you for coming on, and good luck with your book.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it coming from you.
Look forward to meeting you.
Likewise. Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back right after this break. Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. If you ever miss a segment or want to hear it again, go to WABCRadio.com, go to podcasts, go to minicast, and play back your favorite segment. With us today is Senator Dave McCormick. Well, Senator, Pennsylvania, it's a great state. Have you guys solved all the problems down there?
Hey, John, good to be with you. Well, we haven't solved all the problems yet, but I think Pennsylvania has a huge opportunity in front of us, and you know Pennsylvania well. But this AI revolution is happening. And the question is, do we want to be in the lead, as America relative to China. And the question for Pennsylvania is, do we want to be in the lead for our country compared to other states? And Pennsylvania is uniquely blessed because we have incredible energy resources, second largest energy producer in America. We got great skilled labor, great workers. We got great universities, and we got incredible natural geography where we're close to most of the population. So I've been making the case that Pennsylvania needs to be at the intersection of AI and energy. And my wife and I had a big energy summit in July where we had the president come, his cabinet, Governor Shapiro, Senator Fetterman, and all sorts of CEOs that committed $90 billion of investment to Pennsylvania. And that's where I think Pennsylvania needs to go.
And have you a lot of problems in Pennsylvania where the Pittsburgh side of the state had different philosophies from the Philadelphia side of the state? Is that coming closer together?
I think it's coming closer together. Listen, I mean, they're very different parts of the state. And then, of course, the rural part of Pennsylvania where I grew up, very conservative. Those counties aren't as populated, very conservative, and you have more progressive policies in places like Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. But here's the reality. Pennsylvania has been falling behind. If you look at Pennsylvania relative to other states, we're about 28th or 29th in terms of our economic development, the ease of doing business. Our schools in America and in Pennsylvania aren't as good as they should be. That's why we need school choice. So Pennsylvania can't stay on the same path. We can't keep doing the same thing over and over again, or we're going to, we have an aging population. We're going to lose our kids, and they're not going to come back to Pennsylvania. So we need to change things. And what I feel an appetite for change. And I think there's three big things, John, and I won't talk too long, but one is what I just talked about, energy and innovation, AI. The second is defense. Under President Trump, we're going to increase the defense budget by at least $150 billion. Pennsylvania should be at the center of that. The Philadelphia shipyard, building new ships, robotics at Carnegie Mellon, the ammunition at the Scranton ammunition facility. York, Pennsylvania builds the next generation combat vehicle. So Pennsylvania should be a defense state in terms of the defense renaissance. And then the third thing is we are a huge place for life sciences. Philadelphia, Pittsburgh have great universities, great research. And because of President Trump's policies, we have pharmaceutical companies that are now reshoring and building new manufacturing in Pennsylvania. Those three things, in my opinion, are Pennsylvania's future.
Well, those are great items. I mean, with defense, the one thing we know, the federal government always pays.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Sometimes too much.
Yes. Now, let me tell you, other states, I mean, Pennsylvania is a quasi-blue state and quasi-red state. It switches back and forth sometimes. The problems of fraud that's going on in some of the blue states, have you seen any of that in Pennsylvania?
I haven't, but that doesn't mean it's not happening. So I think stepping back, what happened during COVID was that the federal government, to help people that were struggling, threw enormous amounts of money in the SNAP program, in Medicaid, in additional subsidies, and a lot of that money was allocated to the states. And we have lots of evidence that there was fraud across the country, and in those programs, Minnesota is just the most horrible example of taxpayer money. But in all these programs, they were very vulnerable to fraud, and the expenses went up like crazy. Let me give you an example, John. In the last 5 years, Medicaid costs in Pennsylvania went from $28 billion a year to $43 billion a year, and the number of people receiving Medicaid stayed the same, 3 million people a year.
Mind-boggling.
Right?
Mind-boggling.
Mind-boggling, right? This is crazy. And so that's why I've been trying to be part of the effort to reform these programs, reform SNAP. So you have to have work requirements to be eligible for those food subsidies. The same with Medicaid. We made the most modest reform in the big, beautiful bill, the Working Families Tax Cut Act, which was to say if you're going to receive Medicaid, you need to work 80 hours a month. That's not 80 hours a week. That's 80 hours a month. And you would have thought, based on the way the Democrats were talking about it, you would have thought we were taking babies out of incubators. This was a modest reform to try to make sure that we protected the taxpayer dollars. So to your question, yes, I think there's fraud across our country. I think there's fraud in these programs. And I think one of our responsibilities as Republicans is to try to modify these programs so we can eliminate that fraud.
And have some checks and balances, I guess.
Absolutely.
Now, one additional thing. There's big controversy. We're knocking out the federal government. We're knocking out boats that are bringing in drugs to our states and our cities. Why are some of the Democrats objecting to that?
I don't know. For me, this seems obvious. I campaigned on this. So did President Trump. I said on the first day we need to do three things. We need to secure the border, which he did. So number two, we have to designate these narco groups as terrorists, narco-terrorists. The armament, the weaponry these guys have they're like paramilitary organizations, John. These are not guys with knives and handguns. These are guys with drones and anti-aircraft weapons. And the third thing we need to do is use our military selectively to take out these narco-terrorists. And that's exactly what the president's done with the attacks on the boats. You know this number, but maybe your listeners don't. We lost almost 100,000 Americans last year to drugs, to fentanyl, to opioids. We lost 4,000 people in Pennsylvania. And you're old enough to remember, John, as I am, the Vietnam War. In Vietnam, in 8 years of war, we had 53,000 people killed in action. We had 2 Vietnams last year from drugs. So this is a poison. It's a poison being sent to us by these narco-terrorists, and we need to use the military to take them out.
I think President Trump did the right thing. They're killing 100,000 Americans a year from drugs. And, pardon my language, screw them. I mean, President Trump did what he had to do to protect the American people.
Totally. And he said he was going to do it. This is the thing. All this surprise, we can't believe it. He campaigned on that. I campaigned on that. We got elected saying we were going to stop the flow of fentanyl and go after the narco-terrorists. So I applaud him for doing it, and I applaud him for, keeping his promises.
Senator Dave McCormick, thank you so much for coming on this Sunday morning. And let's talk a little bit more often, because we all want what's best for America and for our kids and grandkids.
Yes, sir. Thank you for what you're doing, John. Thanks for having me.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is the Douglas Ford. He's the Canadian Premier of Ontario. Premier Ford, always good to talk to you. What's going on?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, John. As for Canada, and especially Ontario, and our closest friends, the U.S., which I absolutely love the people there, I think we're going to get through this, and especially with everything that's going on around the world. I always say you can't unscramble an egg because it's so interconnected for decades and decades, manufacturing and everything. You got to make the omelet larger, and we can make the omelet larger. Everyone's going to benefit. We have the energy, we have the critical minerals, and who do I want to send our energy to is our greatest friends and allies down to our American friends. And I was over visiting Governor Hochul, and I saw that she was with you the other day. She's a wonderful person.
We watched the premiere of the movie together.
Oh, yeah. She's a wonderful person. And that's what I love. You're a big supporter, and I know the president loves you. But you go on both sides. You try to bring everyone together, and that's always a challenge. But we made an agreement with New York Power Authority. I was down there right before the holidays there, and they're building about 1,000 megawatts, which is equal to about 1 million people. We're building 16,000 megawatts. That's 16 million homes, but we aren't going to be able to use it. So we're going to run the power down to south of the border and try to make sure that everyone has enough power for the big data centers and manufacturing and everything that you need down there. So that's what we're doing. And then the rare earth minerals, we call them critical minerals. We're opening up something called the Ring of Fire. It's the largest deposit in the entire world. And who do we need to send them to? We need to send them to our friends south of the border until they have enough critical minerals from everything from military to technology to manufacturing. And we're going to ship them down there. It'll make us the two strongest, wealthiest, richest, most prosperous countries in the world. Because you have to keep an eye on China right now.
Well, together between Canada and the United States, we're unbeatable, and I've always said that. And we're great neighbors, and I just don't understand some of the conflicts that have been going on.
I know, I don't either. I just don't understand it, and I think we just got to get through it, give people certainty, because right now there's uncertainty on both sides of the border, and if we move forward and do a great deal and we'll be unstoppable. Like you said, when China controls 90% of all the critical minerals in the world, they don't control the largest deposit in the world, and that's Ontario. So just things like that we have to really focus on, and especially energy, electricity. We have to make sure that we share the electricity that we have, which we're already doing. We're keeping lights on at 1.5 million homes in New York and Michigan and Minnesota. And so we're going to continue doing that down there in Erie, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. So that's where we're going to be shipping our energy to.
And we always the pipelines. There was always conflict on the pipelines. Is that settled up now?
Yeah, well, that was Biden that stopped the pipelines. We need to build the pipeline down south. West, east, we need to put the pipeline everywhere, and that's what we're going to be doing. You just have to get the Prime Minister to start moving a lot quicker than what we're doing right now.
And your Prime Minister, any problems between him and President Trump? Or do they have a good relationship?
They get along very well. They're both business-minded people. Our Prime Minister worked at Goldman Sachs, and he worked for Brookfield. And they get along very well, but we just have to move forward on this. It's such a large issue, but such a small thing that we can do with a stroke of a pen, and then unleash North America, unleash the U.S. and Canada against the world. We're unstoppable.
Well, U.S. and Canada, and you never know, maybe Greenland too. The big question is, what do we call the water in between Greenland and Canada? Is it the Gulf of North America?
You know something, John? I'm staying out of that one. That's like a bear trap. I'm not stepping my foot into that one.
Well, we need a little bit of a laugh sometimes, you know.
Yeah, you have to. But I always say I got to focus on Ontario and see how we can continue to move forward and prosper. And when we prosper, everyone prospers. And I always say, Canada, that we're your number one customer and you're our number one customer. No one buys more products off each other than we do. So that's why we have to strengthen the trade and just give people certainty.
Well, Premier Doug Ford, thank you for everything you do, and thank you for having a great relationship. We're one country. I look at it when I say God bless America, I look at it as Canada and the United States being part of America, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, John. You're an incredible person. We need more people like you. So God bless you, and I look forward to coming to New York and paying you a visit.
I look forward to it.
Okay, thanks so much. You take care.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back right after this break. Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. With us today is the chairman of the Oversight Committee from the state of Texas, Congressman and Chairman Pete Sessions. Well, Pete, what the heck is going on all over our country with all this fraud? I mean, I understand they've been telling me that Minnesota might be only the tip of the of what the heck is going on. I mean, they're talking about Ohio, they're talking about California. But you already started on Minnesota. We talked about it Thursday night. What else do you have to report?
Well, this is an important issue. In looking back over the week, it's important to remember that this investigation that was begun years ago by not just the legislature in Minnesota, but actually the governor was acutely aware of this. And the steps that we are learning, the steps that the governor and the attorney general took to squash this data and information, to squash the investigation. And so essentially, like what we would do in Texas, if you knew that formally the government was engaged in some sort of investigation, you would allow them the latitude and the time. Well, what's happened is that the Republicans figured out that it was causing whistleblowers within these agencies who came forward to the governor, who came forward to their own inspector generals, and they were threatened. And the governor came out, as did the attorney general, and stated that this did not exist, that this was made up by a bunch of people. So it grew over time. So the $9 billion is probably not a one-time occurrence. It's things that happened over time. Well, as these things happened, then the community then understood, not just the Somalians, but others, that this was a loophole and a way to do this. So we have put information out to other states from our members who have gone back and said, please look at what now is a frailty of the system and see what exists within your state and how your state might offer up an evaluation of where they are to come back and say, should we dig further into them or not? Very explosive week.
Elon Musk said the other day that of a $7 trillion budget, that 10%, $700 billion might be attributed to fraud, etc. My gut feeling, I think he's more right than wrong.
Well, certainly, as you add up over 4 years of what might be the end of Trump 1 to go into Mr. Biden, we learned firsthand and still do know that one of the key reasons why these unintended payments happened, not the fraud, the unintended payments, was because we did not have government workers at work. We knew that President Biden openly wanted the federal government to stay at home. Tens of thousands of employees that traditionally at work would have, and I will give them credit as government employees, they were looking out for these on contact that they would make with people who were filing for claims. But when they were not there, the automation took over, and it was by and large self-reported. So there's no doubt in my mind these unintended payments that turned into fraud. It was, if you run a government where you do not have government workers come to work and you put things on automatic, this is going to happen. But we believe this is a different story that's being told. This is where we can point directly at, from testimony, saying the Walz administration, including the governor's staff, the governor of the things he's in charge of, and the attorney general willfully took a negative view of this, hid the results, and acted like it did not occur. And that is what allowed this to also turn from unintended patients to fraud over these 4 years of the Biden administration.
I agree. It's very, very sad, very, very sad. And you know, there's an old expression I used to watch in those FBI movies. If somebody doesn't go to jail, the problem will never be solved.
Well, if it's willful misconduct which is where this is leading to. We had a lawyer from the Department of Justice who came out and said that was, when asked, that was his conclusion. Immediately, what was thrown was the race card, and Republicans were trying to butcher what they were doing, as opposed to the responsibility. So, in fact, you are correct. If we will not stand up to this, then the United States, as a law-abiding country, is completely in trouble. And that is why I think on Wednesday, we received assurances from our Democrat colleagues that said, we will not be in favor of this. We will be pleased to investigate this. We will, I don't know if they'll join arm in arm, but they will become engaged because they too care about $9 billion. And I was very pleased to see that there was certainly a handshake on that issue, and I'm going to keep them to that. As the chairman of government operations, I have one of my colleagues who is a Democrat, who is what's called the ranking member, Mr. Nfume from Baltimore, Maryland, and he and I too see the same opportunity to work together. We have to. It's hard to do it when you're on TV and when you've got people that are running for other offices. And we intend to be professional and do this, even though on Wednesday it did not appear that way on C-SPAN.
Mr. Chairman, Pete Sessions, I pray for unity between the Democrats and the Republicans, and in that way we can solve the problems of our country, because I truly believe when President Biden left the presidency, we were on the edge, at the edge of disaster.
Well, certainly if you don't show up at work, certainly if you allow someone to openly defy their role and responsibility, that happens. But I will tell you that I would agree with you and think that as of the hearing on Wednesday, that there are enough common sense people that are Republicans, and we heard from several Democrats, this will not deter us effectively working together. And that is how you solve a problem. And for the people that hear this, they need to know they should expect us to work together, because as a parent of a Down syndrome young man, and lots of other families have the need for the money that is given for an intended reason not to be scammed or stolen. And so that's a standard that Mr. Nfume, my ranking member, and I, that's why we work together. And I think you will see that hopefully moving forward on this Minnesota investigation.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Pete Sessions, thank you so much for coming on. And the conversation will continue in the future. And good luck, and God save America. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us like every Sunday is Lynn Shaw. Lynn's Warriors, how do we protect our kids? Give us an update.
John, thank you. January is National Human Trafficking Awareness and Prevention Month right across our country, and the real war is for our children. We don't want to just have slogans or pretend the problem looks the same as it did 5 years ago with trafficking exploitation, because so much has changed. Exploitation has gone digital. Grooming of our kids happens online long before anybody, a stranger comes up to our kids in person. And while this awareness matters for National Human Trafficking Month, awareness alone in 2026 is no longer enough. We need new ways of looking at this, new questions we have to ask, and new forms of take actions that match the reality families and kids are facing right now. So this is about community involvement, John. We have to get everybody involved. It's about parents and neighbors and educators and just everyday people understanding that protection does not come from the government or institutions alone. It comes directly from the people who stay alert, informed, and willing to step in when they think something's wrong and do something about it. So I've got a couple of things I want everybody to listen to. Trafficking, we know it thrives. It's not popular, it's ugly, it's dark, but it thrives in distraction and silence. So what do we do about all this? Protection grows when communities, families stay informed, engaged, but willing, John, to act. A lot of people are scared. We have to step up in 2026. Awareness starts with, I'm a broken record, conversation. This is what saves lives. We have found out that through all of our work in the last year, 2025 was a very different year for human trafficking. It was one of the most disruptive years for the anti-trafficking movement. So there's no going back, to this status quo. Campaigns are great, but again, we have to talk. We are working trafficking strategies on these old models, John, that no longer exist because that world for us no longer exists. So this January, we're demanding more honesty, more humility, more accountability of big tech and also of the public, of all our warriors. So if we're going to build a future for our kids, we have to be very clear-eyed, and we have to really talk about what's going on, such as, here's a little bit of some rough ideas. We have a lot of states that have proven they can lead in this human trafficking area, and they have reach. So we have to combine our work, and that could be in your home, because, we the people, your legislators work for you. Contact them, House.gov, Senate.gov, and ask them what are they doing about child safety. Because today, if an office gets 5 to 7 requests about the same topic, and it could be, what are you doing about child safety, they log it. They have to respond to that. It used to be 10 to 12. Now it's 5 to 7. So everybody, at their own leisure can sit at home and contact who represents them and say, what are you doing about this? Or tell me about AI. So the issue retains also, again, I always like to point out, all of this with child safety, human trafficking, digital exploitation is bipartisan. Probably, John, the only issue left where everybody can get on board. Doesn't belong to the right, to the left, Republicans, Democrats. It belongs to all of us.
I'm happy to hear that. I mean, I'm glad something is bipartisan. It's about time.
I have to point it out because I think this is good news because I can't think of anything else that's truly bipartisan. But kids and safety, everybody can. They don't have to be scared because we have a lot of great Democrats and Republicans. All of our legislation is always sponsored by a Republican and a Democrat, truly bipartisan. Who could turn down, working for the safety of our kids? So I think this is a very good issue, always giving hope, pointing out when something's good. And, for trafficking, we are past, promising effective models and this and that, gaining traction. It's about actually doing the work in the community. Yeah, we'll fight in Washington or state capitals for everybody. That's our job. But it's in the community where you can make a difference. And things, John, so simple for kids. Great colleagues of ours in Florida, Paving the Way Foundation, she goes with her team into the schools, and she does her focus groups. And a great new report she just shared with me this morning. The little bit of training goes such a long way. And the bottom line is, if you just turn off on your children's devices location sharing, that alone, and 50% of the kids in the training didn't even know about this, or the parents. And that is something we can all do. It's easy. It's free. Don't share locations on your phone. Turn it off. So little things like that. Don't accept, stranger, they want to be your friend or something on Facebook's friend request. No, if it's strangers, you're not going to accept them. It's all common sense. So we're past, everything that was. We want to leverage new information and tech in powerful new ways as we're sitting at the forefront of AI, this artificial intelligence. Now, we've seen a lot of weaknesses in the last year.
So what progress are we going to make this month in because of the special month?
The progress we make any time we can actually raise the awareness. It sounds very simple. Talk about it. If we all use our social media platforms for good, we leverage the internet for good, we put out there that this is happening. If you go to linswarriors.org or any of our accounts on social and just share the information, just understand we have a lot of hope in 2026. There are a lot of simple little things families can do, kids can do, and don't wait for the government to do it for you. We have to take action.
Lynn Shaw of linswarriors.com. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. Thanks, John.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. Every Sunday morning, we'll bring you the latest in what's happening in our community, our country, and the world. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a nice Sunday.
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the pain points of wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.